Welcome back to Off Ball Takes. This is your host, Yarby Laws, and these are my co-hosts.
Khristopher Wells.
Top notch.
We appreciate all the support on our recent content, and before we do get started, please don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the OBT Podcast for more content and updates.
Yes, we're back. We're here again talking about the NBA playoffs. We're recording right after the Orlando Magic just beat Detroit to take a 3-1 lead in Game 4. What a game that was. What a series this has been. We had one person on this panel who picked the Orlando Magic to win this series. I don't know how much he believed that they would win this series. I guess he did. And he picked the Orlando Magic in 7, but it may not even go 7. The Magic may have just whooped the Pistons potentially in 5, maybe 6. We'll see, because Franz Wagner got hurt in this game. But just kind of wild. I thought this would go long. I picked Detroit, so I'm not taking a victory lap because I didn't pick the Magic to win. But I thought that this would be a back-and-forth competitive series because I did feel like the Magic match up well with the Pistons. They can match their physicality. The question really came down to the problems that Detroit's had all year. Were they going to show up in the playoffs? I didn't feel comfortable picking Detroit to win the East because I didn't feel like that their flaws were going to be able to overcome to beat all these other teams, right? The lack of additional creation other than Cade, the lack of three-point shooting, really the lack of depth too, because when you watch them, like in these games, it feels like Bickerstaff doesn't really know who he can really trust to put out there. Because like some stretches, it'll be like, all right, Asura Thompson, you go out there and try to play some defense, even though we're probably not going to put you on Paolo. But then there's other stretches where it's like, we can't have you out there because of your offense. Jalen Duren, who was going to probably be an X factor in the series, not looking too great, right? He's probably been the worst big in this series, right? I remember when we were on our live stream, I was like, Carter Jr. is like okay, but like, how many teams are going to feel great about him being their starting center? The Magic feel really good about him being their starting center right now because he's pretty much won that matchup. He's been the best big in this series. But to be honest, considering you picked the Magic to win the series, I kind of want you, Yarby, to start off with what have you seen from the Magic in this series, and how different or how similar has it played out to what you thought this series was going to be?
Yeah. During the live stream, I picked the Orlando Magic to win this series in 7, basically because I thought that they had the edge in terms of shot creation. Defense, I think both these teams are, they have a solid defensive identity, so that I kind of expected there to be some ugly games here and there, but I thought that Paolo and Franz had a little bit of an edge over Cade and Duren just because of the fact that, when you do shrink the floor with Cade, there tends to be some problems, and that was ultimately the number one issue with Detroit at times throughout the season, right? Like, when you shrink the floor, there's nowhere for Cade to really go. Dennis Jenkins, had some bailout games and definitely some great games in the regular season, but in the playoffs hasn't really been too much of a factor. You can't really use Asura Thompson on the offensive end of the floor, and then Duren being a non-factor just doesn't help. If there's no phenomenal Cade pick and roll with Jalen Duren, then I think that team kind of just falls apart, and that's kind of what's happened because there's been some stinkers, right, from like both sides. Like, Paolo has not been perfect, Franz has not been perfect, Suggs has definitely not been perfect. So there's been guys that have just shot the ball poorly, but I think it's a team effort. They're able to get more shots up. They're able to create a little bit better than Detroit. And that was kind of my logic. Did I think it was actually going to pan out? Yes, but that's why I picked it in 7 because I thought it was going to be ugly, but I didn't expect it to be this quick.
Yeah, man, I'll take my L and walk with it. I had Detroit coming out this series, and, anything can still happen. It's still the NBA at the end of the day. Franz Wagner did get injured, so I'm very curious to see what's going on with that injury. I think I expect Detroit to win the next game at home, but I think the big game will be Game 6 going back to Orlando, and we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, man, since tip-off, since the first game of the series, I could tell that Orlando just was the more physical team and the better team overall. And I had my concerns with Detroit, and I said this earlier, kind of like before the trade deadline, and I said they need to make another move, nothing crazy, nothing big, but just another ball handler, because when you look at this, like, realistically, you're not relying on Dennis Jenkins. No matter, I don't care how good he was in good moments in the regular season. He's not a proven player in the postseason, and that's what we've been talking about for the longest. The postseason is a whole different environment, and you've seen that with Duren, right? Duren was a all-star big in the regular season. He hit in the postseason, and he looks like he's one of the worst bigs. And honestly, we've seen a lot of terrible performances that we've seen performances like Jokic who've been bad, Duren, and then you got players that Rudy Gobert, he looks amazing, right? All the good players are playing bad, and all the players that are just like mid, they're playing great, right? So, I understand people are gonna be like, "Well, Cade has been bad." Well, of course he's gonna be bad when the defense is throwing 5 people on him and they're throwing 2, 3 bodies on him because they know he's the only creator, the only shot maker, the only one that can go to free throw line. So when you look at his turnovers, the paint it's not spread out, and honestly, it's a 3-on-5. And if you really want to go on it, it's really a 2-on-5 because Duncan Robinson has been awful. Osor Thompson is unplayable. He can't make free throws. He can't shoot. He can't do anything defensively. I haven't really seen much from it, right? So, and then when you see Duncan Robinson, we've seen he just hasn't really been that well. So now it's just leading up to Cade and Tobias Harris, and we've seen that in this game, right? And when Tobias Harris is your second option, brother, we have a problem, right? And then you look at their bench unit. I think they got to go a little bit deeper, and it's not that deep, but they got to give Kevin Huerter a chance, right? He's playing just as bad as Duncan Robinson, but give him a chance, right? Let's see Ron Holland, right? Let's see Paul Reed, right? Can Paul Reed give me something different than Stewart? Because Stewart hasn't played well in this series. I understand today he had 8 blocks, but Paul, give me something, right? They have to throw a different rotation out there of what they have. Maybe let me see something from Marcus Sasser. So, I think he's gonna have to get in his bag, and this is their depth.
It's too
right?
late.
Yeah.
Well, it is too late, but one game at a time in the playoffs, things can change. I think it's different being down 3-0 than 3-1
For sure.
because home court advantage plays a factor, and they do have home in Game 7 if it does get there.
Yes.
Not saying that, So
Yeah.
I mean,
The problem is they got to win in Orlando. They had a chance in both
Yeah.
games. These games were not blowouts. I mean, I know Detroit had that crazy game 2 where it was like a tie game at halftime, and then they just completely took Orlando out of their offense. That's why I thought it would be a longer series. But these last 2 games, it's rough. And the crazy thing is Detroit in the regular season was actually pretty good in clutch games. Right now, I believe Orlando was too. But just in general, it's just kind of wild. That's the difference between the regular season and the playoffs. And honestly, it really hurts that Jaden Ivey just didn't pan out, because that feels like a guy where the good version of him before he got hurt last season, probably could help. I mean, I don't know how good he would look in a playoff series. I mean, I know, but just if he was what we thought he could be, that could be potentially your secondary guy. And maybe it still wouldn't have helped, but it's probably better than this, where it's that's why I don't even get disappointed or mad at Cade Cunningham, because it's what other options are there?
It's not Cade's fault, bro.
Yeah, what else can he do? There's literally nothing else he can do. I mean, even in the end of this game, they're closing with Dennis Jenkins because they desperately need another ball handler other than Cade, and it doesn't matter because Jenkins can't really do much of anything either. It's just rough because these last 2 games, there were so many opportunities to potentially get back into the game, maybe close it out. There was a long stretch where they were down by 3-4 points and they just couldn't get anything going on offense. And even in Game 3, Orlando was up 15, Detroit comes back, Cade and Tobias Harris bail him out, bring him back into the game. Then, like I said, boom, Franz Wagner hits a couple buckets. Paolo hits the 2 threes to basically close the game out. And that's where Orlando has a lot more options that they can play through. And yeah, it really does feel wow, it kind of sucks that they made a move at the deadline, but it didn't matter. You basically traded nothing for nothing because, Ivy unfortunately just was not the same player. And then Huerter hasn't really helped them much at all. So just kind of stinks. And I don't know. I mean, this was not a title or bust year for Detroit, but it's still pretty disappointing to be the 1 seed, win 60 games, and go out in the first round and maybe not even win more than 1. That's bad, I would say.
That'd be terrible.
I don't would you fire Bickerstaff, or would you just keep? Or
I wouldn't fire him.
I wouldn't either.
No, it's been a great turnaround for that team.
Yeah, Yeah, I wouldn't either. It just you just kind of wonder, but I think it's more so roster construction flaws more so than coaching flaws because like it just it sucks because like last year it's like wow they were in this series against the Knicks, maybe had some real chances to win it, and then it's like it's the same demons once again, but the roster isn't really that much better than last year. Just like, Cade is better, but like Duran was really good in the regular season and has not worked out in the playoffs. So
I
I wonder how his contract looks. But what were we gonna say?
I think if they play somebody else, they probably get out of the first round. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
honest. I think
like
Orlando is just a bad matchup for them because of
yeah,
the defensive identity that they provide, while also having those hot and cold,
yeah.
weird Paolo games, and then Suggs obviously with the defense as well. So it's just tough.
Orlando shot 32.6% from the field in this game
Yeah,
and still won.
that's my point.
Yeah, and still
Ugly.
won this game. It's just absolutely insane. But yeah, like if they played Charlotte or if they played, one of the other play-in teams, like they probably would have been fine. But like this team is a really matches up very well, and this is what we wanted to see from Orlando going into the season. Like we both picked the over 50.5. Thought they'd be a top team in the Eastern Conference, maybe dark horse sneaky team to win the Eastern Conference. And it's like, what the heck happened this year? I know they had a lot of injuries, but even when I watched them, like with all their guys, they still never consistently felt like a really good team to me. That's why I didn't feel super comfortable even picking them because I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to get from them on a game to game basis, especially after they got embarrassed by Boston at the end of the season and then embarrassed by Philly. But since that point, they've been locked in and it's been really wild to see. I guess Top
Well,
Notch, I'll ask you this question because you had a team a couple years ago that was in the play-in, made a run to the NBA Finals. Do you think that this Orlando Magic team could pull off something similar?
just because of the bracket they're in, I actually do. We talked about this off stream. I think just because I have no faith in Cleveland, right? You had the opportunity to, close this game out, close the series in 4 or 5, and now you're in a dogfight, and the way you have to win is winning 2 in a row. And I just don't like that in round one, especially with an older James Harden who typically, fades out very, very fast in the postseason, right? And then honestly, a lot of people don't talk about it, but Donovan Mitchell been the same Donovan Mitchell since Utah. People just don't want to have that conversation. So with those two performers, it's just not going to get it done. And honestly, um, the way Orlando has the physicality of what they're going to bring, no matter what, even if they struggling, like you shot 38% from the field. I mean, him winning a playoff game or around there is just incredible. And I think they can do that just against Toronto, against Cleveland, because I think those are, matchups they can win. Now, if this is against Boston or anything, I think it'll still be tough, but Boston obviously would win the series. They have more talent, they have all the experience and stuff, but the bracket Magic's in, this reminds me of like the Atlanta Hawks a few years ago where Trae Young just went berserk in New York and brought that team to the Eastern Conference Finals. And no one ever expected it. No one ever expected Orlando Magic to even be in the playoffs. And then if they were in the playoffs, to beat the number 1 seed. And now they have a chance.
except Yarby right there. That he was one of them. He was one of them. I
Yeah.
don't even know if Magic fans picked themselves to
No, they
beat
didn't.
I mean, I think there was like a stretch where like once they beat the Hornets, their fans were kind of like, "See, you all were saying we were dead, but now we're not dead." So, but I don't know how much of a confidence level they had against the Pistons. Maybe they thought they could, but I don't really
That's
see how
what
you
did
could
it for me.
right. So maybe that's what they thought,
I
but I
tell
do
you
want.
this.
Momentum's real.
If Toronto finds a way to win this series, Orlando's 100% going to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, there's definitely a shot. There's definitely now a pathway that's been open for the Magic to get into the conference finals now in a way where it's like, if you asked me this like 2 weeks ago, I would have been like, you got to be kidding me. But now it's real. Like it's
to be
there.
fair though, right? That's not a fun matchup to. I wouldn't. I don't want to watch that matchup. Like second round matchups are supposed to be way more entertaining. Magic versus Toronto, ew.
I would actually like Magic versus Cleveland though. That would be
That's what I
entertaining.
want.
Yeah,
That's
they
what I
played
want.
against each other
Yeah,
before.
it would be a
That was a good
rematch.
series.
It would be
Yeah.
because what? They won 7 games last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was 2 seasons ago, I think. I
Oh,
think it was
2.
in 20.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. because that was the
So
Magic's first playoff series because they had a really good regular season, got hurt, and then dropped to
Yeah,
like
I picked them in that
5.
series. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
they won
Yeah,
7.
we both picked the opposite teams, but we
Yeah,
said
I
seven
picked Cleveland.
games. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny.
So which let us know, like, yeah, we knew that was going to be a close competitive series,
Yeah,
and it was. I mean, shoot, Orlando, I think was up in Game 7 in the first half.
yeah, and then they
Where
didn't score for like an
yeah,
entire quarter.
oh, I remember that series now. Yes. Yeah, I remember that series.
Never
Oh
fails,
man.
man.
but like that was the birth of playoff Paolo, right? And like even in these games where he's not shooting the ball well, he's still doing a lot of other things. So
Passing,
that's
bro.
the main thing. Where it's like I'm super happy for him because it just felt like he was just taking his PR was taking a beating,
Yeah,
for most of this year. Because like everybody was like, we're done with him. Build around Franz, get rid of Paolo. This dude stinks. He's a quitter. All these other things, and it's like, well, he's
Well, to
back.
be fair, he has still been bad, but
I
they're
wouldn't say
winning.
bad.
Well,
Streaky.
efficient wise, he has been awful.
Yes.
He hasn't shot the ball well, but like, there's no way they win either of these games if he doesn't do what he's
No,
doing.
there was one game he dominated. Was that game 2? Oh no, game 3, where he had 26, I think.
I think that might have been
Game
game
one,
one.
game
Game
one,
one.
he had a big first 3 quarters. I don't think he did as much in the fourth, but he was still like passing, rebounding, and all like. And that's the thing, he's doing a bunch of other things other than just scoring. And like you can see him running the offense, and it's kind of like, oh, this is kind of like the argument for that some people made, where it's like maybe the Magic need a point guard, but like um since Paolo can do some passing and playmaking, you don't have to have like a Tyus Jones. Like you can get away with a Jalen Suggs because like Paolo can have more usage. So they said that Franz plans to undergo an MRI. So it said he's feeling fine post game and hopes to play in Game 5. MRIs I feel like are usually not a great sign,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah,
that's not a good sign at all. The fact that he's saying players are always gonna say, "Yo, I want to play," and then they don't play.
yeah,
But
like
I want to throw this out here, yo,
mhm.
bro. Paulo Banchero in the postseason is shooting 42%, which doesn't actually seem too bad, I guess.
Yeah, it's
But
fine.
yeah, he shot 22% today, 35% the other night, 41%, and this is what's really carrying it. It's the first game where he shot 53%. But each game he's getting worse technically. So 53, 41, 35, and 22. But I think the impact is more than just scoring. I think
Right.
the size and
Yeah.
defense is what's really affecting that team.
Yeah, because like he shot 6 for 17 in Game 3, but he still had like 12 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. So like that's the big thing for me that I'm super happy for him, just because it's like now he looks more so like a franchise guy. I'm curious to see how far the Magic go, assuming they get past Detroit. But yeah, conference finals is definitely on the table for them, 100%, because they can. I think they can beat either Cleveland or Toronto. I don't know how comfortable I would feel picking them against Cleveland. I'd have to wait and see. First, we got to see if Cleveland gets out of this series. So I guess we could talk about that, where Cavs dominate the first 2 games, although the second game was closer. But then these last 2 games, it's completely flipped, right? Game 3, Toronto destroyed Cleveland in the fourth quarter, and you could chalk that up to. This is why I don't like picking sweeps, because it's just like I know there's going to be one game where the other team just hits literally everything. The other team maybe goes cold, maybe takes the foot off the gas, and they lose, right? But then it's like, all right, let's see what happens in Game 4. In Game 4, that's the one where if you're the Cavs, you have to be pretty upset with yourself, because that game was super close, super competitive, very low scoring. It was like 58-60 at the end of the third quarter. Cleveland actually had a lead late and then just completely smoked it away, right? And then I mean, you give Toronto credit for making that comeback, but that was they were up 5 with 3.5 minutes to go, and then Ingram hits 3. Sam Merrill makes a 3. Then Ingram hits a couple free throws. Barrett gets a floater. Barnes gets a couple free throws, or 4 free throws. So the rest of the game is free throws, and then some really bad offensive possessions for Cleveland, right? Where it's like turnovers, or that last possession where it was like Mitchell trying to draw a foul when it's like you didn't even need a 3 on that possession. Like you were like, yeah, they were down 3, but you could have gone for a quick 2. But um, that was bad. And then for the game, Mitchell was 6 for 24. Harden was 6 for 14. Harden had 7 turnovers. But then look at the front court. Now this is where it's pretty nasty, right? Evan Mobley, 8 points, 9 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block, 4 for 11. 0 for 3 from 3. Jared Allen, 3 points, 1 for 5 shooting. Against who? For this Raptors front court. Obviously, Colin Murray-Boyles, fantastic for a rookie, being super impactful in this
Oh, yeah.
series. Crazy. I mean, we
Yeah.
both liked the pick, but like, did I expect him to be like in the playoffs doing this stuff
No.
round one against like a good basketball team?
No.
Absolutely not. Kind of, making up for Pirtle not being all that great. I know he made a few baskets late, but he's not been great. Sandro hasn't been great. Like, that's nuts. Like, basically a small ball guy has been Toronto's best big where they can switch everything. And like, that's probably taking away from why Cleveland's bigs aren't able to score, but like, that's not a good look, right? Because those guys have built a reputation the last few seasons for not being super physical guys and getting kind of punked by other front courts, because we saw it. We've seen it in previous series, and it's looking like that now. And obviously, shout out to Scotty Barnes, because he's definitely now kind of built something for himself in this series, where like, this is a guy where it was like, comes in as a rookie, really good right away. Everybody really likes him. Then everybody starts to kind of move off of him as like, he gets more opportunities, more shots. And then this year, right, he's like, this is like the first full year where it's like him and Ingram. Those are your two main guys. What does it look like? They're both pretty good in the regular season. They had some injuries. Barnes has to play point guard. And then in that first game, it was pretty bad for both of them, but it's gotten better, at least for Barnes, over the course of the series, where defensively he's been a monster. He's been probably the most physical front court player of any of these guys, right? I know he's not a center, but just everything he's doing on both ends of the floor, super impressive. They changed the starting five, right? Because I think it was Shed starting. They didn't, they just weren't guarding him at all, because he's not really like a scorer. That's kind of where you miss quickly. He started Jacoby Walter, 0 for 9, 0 for 8 from 3. So sure, I guess that worked, but it's just rough for Cleveland, because that was a winnable game and you blew it. Like, I mean, you give credit to Toronto for making these changes, making it really hard for Cleveland to score. But, if you're Cleveland, like, this is rough now, because you're at the point now where in the back of your mind, you have to be thinking, if we lose this series, more changes could be coming, because you already made a big change by trading Garland for Harden. And through the first couple of games, it was fine, but it's starting to get a little bit tricky now, because they're starting to pick these guys up full court, being physical. Like, Barnes is sometimes guarding these guys, which, is probably not the easiest job in the world to do. So I give Toronto a lot of credit for battling back in the series. Like, Grady Dick's been a ghost. Just kind of nuts how that was a guy that like everybody liked in the draft, and it's like he can't even play in a playoff series against the team that has a lot of guards that you think you could just put him out there for some 3-point shooting. But I don't know. I picked the Cavs in 6, so I guess this series could still go that way. But and I think Cleveland should still win this series, because with Mitchell, I think there's a factor where it's like it's a big game. Maybe it's Game 7 in Cleveland. He pops off, but I haven't liked what I've seen from Cleveland in these last couple of games, and it feels like they're going to need to probably do something a little bit different with what they're doing, especially the front court. Because I know the guards weren't great, but like those two guys in the front court, Mobley and Allen, cannot be this bad against this Raptors front court, where it's like, who on paper is supposed to be stopping these guys?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, this is an embarrassment if you're Cleveland, like, I feel like you're too talented to be tied up in this series. Like, you give Toronto a bunch of credit because of what they're able to scheme and how they're able to, stop these guys. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't be possible, technically, right? Because you have so much talent, in the front court and in the back court as well. And I think depth-wise as well, I think Cleveland's bench needs to be better as well. Strus needs to be a lot better. I think Merrill's been okay. But, you just need more from pretty much everybody. And I just feel like they should be up 3-1 at the moment. Because I feel like I think it was the first game of the series. That's what I kind of expected to happen throughout the entire one. But, here we are. It's evened up, which is embarrassing.
Yeah. For this series personally, man, just showing that Scotty Barnes is a good player. Yeah, Scotty Barnes is a good player, and he's showing it, and he's showcasing it in front of everybody in the in the postseason, right? Because who really watches Toronto during the regular season? He just needs his other partner to show up a little bit more in Brandon Ingram. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to see how the series closes out. This would be one of the worst disasters ever if Cleveland loses in the first round after trading for James Harden. Because you traded a 26-year-old point guard for somebody that's 36, 37, 10, 11 years older, and you mortgage your future, and you couldn't even get out the first round. And then I think there needs to be conversations. I think it gets a little bit messy with Donovan Mitchell, right? Because it's like, you traded me this, and we still can't get out. Now, do I want out? So I think this is like you have to win these games. You have to win the first round. And like I said, we talked about this before. The Cleveland can get to the Eastern Conference Finals, right? If they get Magic, I think that's a good matchup for them. I think it'll be a fun matchup. But this is open as it could be, especially with Detroit, probably getting out of here. So
Yeah.
they got to take advantage of this. And also, off topic, going back to Jalen Duren, I just thought about this real quick. And if the Pistons decide not to pay him, and I think they will, but just keep this in mind. He is the perfect center for Luka, and the Lakers will have the money. So just think about that. I know it's kind of way off topic to talk about the Lakers, but I think he will. I think that's what the center Luka would want to play for as a future big. But anyways, but yeah, man, Scotty Barnes has been amazing this series.
Yeah, he's been awesome, and it's really kind of the difference in these last couple of games where it's like, yeah, he's probably been the best player on the floor these last two games. And I mean, the classic mantra of like, oh, the best player, usually wins the series. That hasn't worked out as much like in recent years as like a lot of these teams, just it's more so about the matchups, more so than who the best player is. But yeah, him being this good, on a team where it's like it's really not even that optimized for a guy like a Scotty Barnes, because it's like you don't have, especially without Quickly, you don't have another guard that you can kind of put out there to be like your main guy that he can play off of. It's Ingram, and he's not really been. I mean, he had 23 points in this game, and he made a couple buckets late. It just feels like they've been good like in these last couple of games in spite of him. I don't know what it is. It doesn't feel like he's been super impactful in this series. So if he has if Ingram actually has a good game left in him, that's where Cleveland could really have a problem. Because on paper, you're thinking, how is this team able to guard Ingram? Because you're thinking on paper, like the wings that Cleveland has, like should it be that tough of a matchup for Ingram? But I guess their size and their strength, can kind of bully him physically, right? Like Dean Wade is kind of a big dude, I guess. Max Strus is a physical guy, but it disappointed in Ingram, but very encouraged by what I've seen from Scotty Barnes. And like, I guess it hasn't mattered so far because it's a tie series, and there's a lot of pressure for the Cavs. So we'll see if they're up to the task. And after that, over in the Eastern Conference, you have a couple other series. You got Knicks, Hawks, Sixers, Celtics, and B came back. Celtics won. Not a whole lot to say there, right? I mean, the game two was nuts because Philly blew out Boston. Game three, it really looked like Boston might lose that game. And then Embiid comes in, and it's just like, I don't blame him because he's been hurt. But when he came back, I was like, that's probably going to help Boston. Not mainly because it's such a huge shakeup midway through the series. Now defensively, it's a little bit trickier, and like you have to kind of fit everybody in because like Maxey and Edgecombe weren't as good, and I'm not saying Embiid, like completely sucked everything out, and now like these guys, don't get as many opportunities, but you could feel it in this game watching it where Boston just three after three after three because there wasn't a whole lot that Philly could do. Like you can't really switch because you can't have Embiid out there on the perimeter, but you also can't really have him just drop back in the paint because you have all these 3-point shots. And it's like Peyton Pritchard shooting off the dribble, Jason Tatum shooting off the dribble, Jaylen Brown shooting off the dribble. It's just, or drive and kick for threes. He was bullying Kata. I guess, and then Vucevic looked a little bit more playable out there because then it's like, oh, he's still kind of a big guy. You can put him out there for threes, but I don't know. Like I picked Boston in 5 because that one was an obvious one. No Joel Embiid for most of it. Even with Embiid, I just don't think it's a great matchup. George has been okay. I mean, I guess okay enough where it's like if you're Philly, I don't know, maybe you can trade him in the summer or maybe you just keep him. I don't know. But assuming, after Philly loses a series, I don't really know what else you could probably do moving forward because you kind of just stuck. with Embiid and Paul George, and that's not a disrespect to those guys, but I don't think you can really move those guys. You do have your guards that you can build around, but like they just feel like a team that's just kind of stuck. Whereas, like I said, with Boston, it's just kind of crazy how good they've been this year. Where I thought this was going to be a gap year. Now they're up 3-1 in the first round. Playing whoever wins between the Knicks and the Hawks. With the real chance to make the finals.
Yeah, shout out to Boston. I picked them to sweep this Philly team, but obviously that didn't happen. I feel like it should have, could have, but Tatum's been awesome. Jaylen Brown's been awesome. Peyton Pritchard, like just the whole squad has been pretty cool. So what a comeback season for them. I feel like because like wow, I think everybody expecting them to just not even be a serious team at all, but yet here they are, number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, and potentially going back to the NBA Finals. Who knows? We'll have to see. But they're making the case for it, and they're handling Philly just like I think everybody thought they would.
Yeah, man. Listen, my only thing is Maxey can't take 14 shots in a game that's a must-win, right? And he even acknowledged it. 14 shots for the best player on the court. It's just not going to get the job done against the Boston Celtics. And then the game before that, which I actually watched in Philly, that was kind of funny. Um, you know, they had it right there, and then Jason Tatum just showed you why he's one of the better players in the league. Just hitting clutch shots and dagger in the game, right? And then also too, like VJ Edgecombe, he can't struggle like he has. I mean, like the first 2 games he had 43 points combined. The last 2 games he had 16. So 5 for 17, 2 for 9. It's just you're not going to get it done, right? So not much to say about this series. We kind of knew this series was a wash.
Yeah.
I think there needs to have serious conversations going into the offseason. I think Joel needs to be on the move. It's going to be hard with obviously Paul George's contract, but I think the sole focus needs to be VJ and Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah. After that, we have Knicks Hawks. What a series that's been, right? Because I picked the Knicks in 5, but I thought a competitive 5 games. Well, that's not going to happen now. The series is tied 2-2. The Hawks initially took a 2-1 series lead behind CJ McCollum, making his comeback for all the world to see. So awesome for him. And then the Knicks kind of bounced back. It was nuts because those last 2 games, right? The Hawks lost the game by like 1 point each, right? Like those were games where it's like, wow, the Knicks probably should have won those games, and then they just couldn't close it out. Fourth quarter, horrible in game 2, up 14, blew it all. CJ McCollum wins the game. And then the Knicks don't even get off a good shot, right? It's like a Bridges chuck up from the mid-range spot. Nobody thought that was going in, if I'm going to be honest. Maybe you did, but I didn't think it was going in. Yeah, no, I didn't think that was going in. Then game 3, it's like, all right, you're in Atlanta. You just blew that last game. You're going to bounce back, right? Right? And then the Hawks continued to put pressure, forcing turnovers, 2 great Kuminga games. And it was just weird because through those first stretches of games, it's like, you didn't have great series from like a Jalen Johnson or even a Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He kind of came to play in game 3, but just, the difference between the regular season and the playoffs. But then the Hawks were still up 2-1. After the game, Mike Brown's like, yeah, maybe we'll win this series. Maybe we won't. We'll have to see. And I think game 3, right, Bridges and Hart had a combined 2 points. Bridges was scoreless, played 21 minutes. That just can't happen. And then game 4, Knicks major bounce back. Must win. Towns was finally more involved. I don't know what that was. I don't know why he just has stretches where he just can't get shots. Sometimes I think it's the offense. Sometimes it's the other players not getting him the ball. Sometimes it's him, but it was just weird. And then the bench came to play, and then it felt like the Hawks guys. Jalen Johnson was not great in that game, and it's been a weird series for him. I mean, I didn't expect him to have an amazing series. It was just like, all right, this is kind of your first series being the franchise guy. He hasn't been the best player on the team, which is fine because you had McCollum out there for a guard, as your lead guard, I guess. Dyson Daniels, it's rough when he's out there. He's out there for defense, but they're starting to kind of scheme him in a way where it's getting a lot trickier. And, now they've stopped having Brunson just come out and just be okay with being switched on to McCollum. Use your defenders. OG's been great. So I still think the Knicks should win this series and close it out. I thought it would be 5 competitive games. We'll see, but I don't see the Hawks I mean, it's a tie series, but I think the Knicks will win this series at this point because with the Hawks bench, it's up and down. And if you can kind of contain these guys for Atlanta, like Jalen Johnson, McCollum didn't pop off as much. I think the Knicks should be able to take care of this.
Yeah. I picked the Knicks in 4. I had them sweeping this team, but honestly, this doesn't really surprise me too much because I feel like this has been the story with the New York Knicks for the past couple of seasons, right? Where they're in close games, they might lose, honestly. But
Yeah.
if it's a blowout, if there's like a sizable gap, I think they'll be okay. And as a Wizards fan, seeing CJ McCollum do this doesn't come as a surprise either because a lot of Wizards fans labeled that guy as a terrorist, but not for the reasons that you would think, right? But because he was winning games for this team. So you deal a player away, and yeah, exactly, reverse terrorism. So shout out to him. He's been hooping, making this series very competitive, very fun series to watch. And I'm kind of just excited, and I hope it goes 7 games. I don't think it will, but it would be awesome if this is a down to the wire series, and we get a CJ McCollum versus Jalen Brunson clutch duel. That'd be dope.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I had Knicks, but I'm gonna be I'm going Atlanta to win the series. I just think the New York Knicks. Nah, bro, New York is just not good, bro. They're not good at all. Like, and no one's talking about it, but Jalen Brunson's a huge problem. He can't be a number 1 option. He's getting cooked defensively. I mean, down the stretch, CJ McCollum is just working him every game down the stretch. Like, bro, the last 2 games is the reason why they're winning by 1 point. Like, because Brunson is just he can't play no defense. It kind of reminds me of the Jokic, where Jokic just can't play no defense. He can't play no defense. He's just a cone out there, and that's what Brunson is. And then offensively, you're not getting the same performance like just last year. The numbers look good, but it feels a little bit different. And I've been seeing a lot of Knicks fans realizing that like, yo, listen, he can't be another 1 option. And then you realize, oh, you adding Mike Brown to replace Tom Thibodeau did absolutely nothing. It did absolutely nothing because they're the same. If anything, they're a little bit worse. You took out Karl-Anthony Towns out of the offense, which that's your second best player. He needs to be more involved offensively. So, it's Jalen Brunson or nothing because Mikal Bridges is useless. I seen Josh Hart just go out there and do cardio. He's not even like scoring, not doing nothing. All the little things that matter, he's not even doing that. I mean, OG Anunoby's is whatever, but
he's been awesome.
Yeah,
I said he's been whatever, right? Like, I'm not saying he's been bad.
All right. I mean, whatever's a little dismissive, but we'll let that slide.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Been really good.
So it's just like, yeah, this team don't got enough, bro. I'll be honest with you, and I think, with CJ McCollum, this is who CJ McCollum always been. Let's not get it twisted. Like, he always been like this. He just always been a pure hooper. And then, Nickeil Alexander is going to wake up Jalen Johnson. I just have this team beating the Knicks, and I think this is needed because I think the Knicks need a restart, real straight. Like, seriously,
Go out, get Giannis, go out, get Durant, and then just like let's roll.
No, they need to stop. They need to stop star hunting. That's their problem.
But it's just funny because in this series, the main thing I thought was the Knicks' advantage in the front court, and then, in my opinion, advantage with the bench. And that wasn't really the case through the first 3 games. But, this time around, right, like Towns had the triple-double, just much more involved. It just feels like a series where, like, you just need to use Towns a little bit more, right? Like, Robinson hasn't played as much. I mean, he played 15 minutes. But I feel like as long as you can play through and get good production from Towns, OG's been really good. Like, you shouldn't have to have a monster Brunson series to win against Atlanta. I don't think, right? Like, I think as long as you get good production from most of these guys, you should be okay. Bridges, it's rough. It's been rough in this series. I mean, even in the game that they won, he only played 19 minutes, and had 8 points plus 0, in a game that they won by a decent amount, right? Like, they won that game by like 16 points. So not great, but we'll see. I think the Knicks will win this series and move on, but The first 3 games had me a little bit scared, if I'm going to be honest. I expected the Knicks in close games to have the advantage because in the regular season they were very good. They almost never lost when they had a lead after 3 quarters, and they were one of the best fourth quarter teams in the league with the shot making they have and the defense they had. But I give credit to the Hawks because they've made it a more competitive series than I thought, and they took those 2 games against the Knicks in a way that I wasn't expecting. So even if they lose this series, they have my respect, and they're gonna have a top pick or some type of first round pick in this draft, which is gonna be really cool. I don't know what's so funny, but
Yeah.
so moving on. Uh, as we go to the next part of the bracket, let's go out in the Western Conference. I'm just gonna say it feels like it's OKC and San Antonio. It feels like that to me. Like it feels like we're headed for a collision course in the Western Conference between the Thunder and the Spurs, right? The Thunder think they're playing the Suns as we speak, getting ready to sweep them. And then whoever comes out of Lakers Rockets, they'll take care of them pretty easily. And we can talk about these series um as we go. And then just watching the Spurs just destroy Portland in 2 back-to-back games where it's like Portland's up big. Wow, Portland's better than we thought. Spurs come back. Wow, it's over. Like even in a game where Wemby gets a concussion, Portland wins. And then the next game Wemby doesn't play. Portland's up huge. Scoot's talking to Dylan Harper. Harper takes the game over. Now he gets more minutes. He had been, up until that last game, it felt like he and Castle were their 2 best guards. Then Fox shows up in this last game and plays really, really well. And it's like, oh wow, they have this guy too, right? Who used to be, one of the better players on a playoff team that, took the Warriors to 7 games, even though they were the higher seed. But those 2 teams have been super impressive to watch so far in the playoffs. I know like who they're playing isn't exactly like the greatest comp, but that's also the benefit on paper of being the top 2 seeds in your conference. Now Detroit didn't have that benefit, and some people have said, "Hey, maybe the top seed should be able to pick their first round opponents." But yeah, that's a thing that people say. But
Yeah, no.
you don't think so?
What? No.
I'm just asking because like that's an actual topic of
No.
discussion
No. Whoever said that, no. I'm not even going to say what I wanted to say. No.
Yeah, but regardless, like this is kind of where the regular season does matter because you're those 2 teams and you've been really good all year, and now your reward is you get to play teams that just don't have a chance against you. Phoenix doesn't have a chance of beating OKC. I thought it would go 5. I mean, I guess Phoenix has had some injuries. Mark Williams has been out, so that hasn't helped. Goodwin missed a few games. Grayson Allen missed a few games, but they're still not good enough to beat OKC. They've been kind of competitive in these games. And J-Dub hasn't even played because he got hurt. So that would be the one concern I would have with OKC. And then, like I said, the Spurs, Wemby's been dominant. Their guards have been great. And so far, it's like, wow, their regular season success for the most part is translated. I would like to see what it looks like in the next round. But unfortunately, because of injuries, we may not necessarily get that, right? Because now we're going to have to talk about Nuggets Wolves, a series which has not gone at all like what I would have expected, despite the advantages that I thought that Denver was going to have going into this series, right? Where you're playing a banged up Anthony Edwards. You're playing a Minnesota team that, give credit to them, they've clearly shown they are playoff risers. They can be as up and down, as trash as possible, as great as possible in the regular season. When it's playoff time, they are locked in. They are focused. But you're playing a banged up Anthony Edwards. And then like we're going into the season with Denver, looking at him as like, all right, they traded for Cam Johnson, which funny enough, you like Yarby, you and I thought that MPJ was better. Like we thought that Cam Johnson may have a higher floor, but that MPJ has a higher ceiling. As it turns out, his floor is probably lower than Michael Porter Jr.'s because he's been a ghost for a lot of the season up until like maybe the end of the regular season, and then in the playoffs, not great. Gordon now seems like he's got a lot of lower body injuries, so that's not great. They just can't win without him. I mean, maybe they beat Minnesota, but like it's been bad. Like, and even if honestly, I'm gonna be honest, even if Denver comes back and wins this series, I'm not even gonna care because like you should not be down 3-1 in the first place. Because like game 1, right? Jokic was okay, like his stat line. I'm sure, like his biggest supporters will probably be like, he had a really good game, but like he was okay. Murray was the star in that game. But game 2, you were up, what, 20 in the first half? Blew it all, went down like 8 in the second quarter, which I've not seen that too much. And then you kind of fix it and you're tied at halftime. They have a late fourth quarter lead and then they completely blow it. And you give a bunch of credit to Minnesota where it's like Anthony Edwards in the first quarter looks like he can't even move. And then Minnesota finds a way. After the game, they call you out. Jaden McDaniel says, yeah, they have a bunch of bad defenders and he names them. It's not even like it's a general term. He gives names. He gives names. And then in game 3, they back up the talk. They destroy Minnesota. I know Gordon didn't play. I know Watson hasn't played at all, and that's a major problem because they just don't have anybody that can really stay in front of some of these guys. Even their guards aren't great defensively. Like Christian Brown is like probably their only defensive guard in the starting lineup, and just certain matchups are rough for him. And it's hard to ask him to be the main guy. Like they really miss a guy like a KCP. Although I don't think he could do much against Ant just because the physicality, but just having a guy who could just lock and trail or just get steals or something.
Yeah.
And you just don't have that at all, combined with the lack of rim protection. It's now clearly a bad matchup. That team has snatched your soul. They're in your heads now. And then game 4, you have like the quote unquote most ideal, not great, obviously for Minnesota, but like you have like an almost ideal situation for you where it's like Gordon comes back. Maybe he can give you something. Maybe he can be game 7 inspirational cheerleader. I don't know. But then Dante DiVincenzo tears his Achilles in like the first few minutes. I mean, just horrible, awful. Hopefully he recovers and comes back quick. I think he has Tatum's same surgeon or whatever. I think I read that where he went to New York to go there. And then Anthony Edwards hyperextends his knee and gets a bone bruise. And then Denver still finds a way to lose. Ayo Dosunmu, 43 points, drops them off in a variety of ways, right? Like they made him look like he was like the best guard in the playoffs. I mean, it wasn't like, you look at his shot making and it's like he had a bunch of free throws, bunch of threes, transition buckets, just straight drives to the basket. It was easy. It wasn't like it was, it wasn't like it was a bunch of like tough, SGA Luka type shots. Like, it was just like an easy 43. Like he was just in the zone. He saved their season pretty much, right? Like what a trade that ended up being for Minnesota. Hopefully he can get re-signed and come back there because they need him. Where would they be without him? Especially because Ant probably isn't coming back this series. And, we'll see what happens if Denver comes back down 3-1. If they don't come back down 3-1, honestly, even if they do, like I said, I don't care. Like the belt is gone. Jokic, you have lost the best player in the world belt. You got it, especially if OKC goes back to back. Like the belt is gone. Maybe he could win it, bring it back next year. I don't know, but like this series has kind of made me reevaluate what I would think about Denver moving forward because like moving forward, I don't like what's the move because like you have some contracts that you don't feel great about. Christian Brown's on a huge contract and is just okay, but like not great, not inspiring. Gordon, love Aaron Gordon, but he might be injury prone at this point. He might have some lower body injuries where he just can't recover. He's only getting older. And Jokic and Murray are getting older. They're not old. They're not senior citizens. But it's just, how much longer can you continue to build around that core? So that this series, like I said, now has me having some existential questions for that team. And like this series, especially if Denver loses, considering how Jokic has been this series where he's been straight up doo-doo, like this is going to be a stain for him. Like in terms of like, we know that like whoever your favorite player is, you rank all the great players in the NBA history. They've all had terrible series, right? But like this one is one that's going to have to stick because this one has been straight up bad. Because this was a series where I expected Jokic, win or lose, honestly, to be the best player in this series, and he has not been. I don't even know who it's been, but it's definitely not been him because he's been, like I said, mostly bad. Even in that last game, game 4, when the Wolves went up 3-1, like in the first quarter, it was like, okay, here we go. Jokic showing up, scoring early, and then he just disappears. It's like it's a lot of Jokic and Murray, 2-man game. Minnesota took that away. He can't shoot anymore. Can't really defend. And it's, like I said, this is a bad series for him. This is a bad look, right? This is kind of one of those things where, and like I think we all like Jokic, but, there are people out there that feel like he gets a little bit too much bump. at times. And like this is kind of one of those like, okay, slow down the top 10 all-time player talk, at least for right now. Right? Because like I said, right now I think especially if OKC wins it all, like the belt is probably getting ready to be given up.
Yeah, I think my logic going into this series was picking Denver in 7 games because I thought Jokic was going to be the best player in the series, and I thought, there were going to obviously be times where Anthony Edwards was going to pop off as well. Kind of similar to what we've seen in previous years, right? But I just thought Denver would come out on top. But that's not going to be possible if Jokic is going to completely just disappear this entire series while also the team is falling apart around him. But then you look at Minnesota, their team is falling apart as well. But, their guys are really showing up and rallying, especially around Jaden McDaniels and his mental warfare tactics. So shout out to Minnesota. Shout out to Trent for making a good pick on that. But, I just don't know how far Minnesota can go after this. But with Denver, it is really disappointing because Jokic should be carrying this team to victory.
And like I said, I do not care if they win this series. I do not care if they come back and win this series.
Exactly.
I should, but I don't. I don't. I really don't.
Yeah, because it looks like they won tonight, right? Elimination. They're up like almost 20 points right now. But yeah, I mean, the fact that you have to go up to Game 7 to win this series in round 1 is pretty pathetic, especially for a high expectation team that they made a lot of moves this offseason. A lot, right? They brought in Tim Hardaway Jr. They brought in Jonas Valanciunas, Cam Johnson. I know they brought in some other pieces as well, but
Bruce Brown brought him back.
Yeah, so they brought in some pieces and you really thought they were going to be competitive, and then they get bounced out or fighting in Game 7. So not a good look overall. OKC just swept the Suns. That's official right now. So there's levels to this stuff, right? Shea's chilling. He's probably in the beach doing TikTok dances while Jokic is worried about someone stealing his underwear. You know what I mean? Like there's just levels to this, and I'm not even a big fan of OKC. I think everybody knows this on the podcast by now, but you got to respect them, right? You typically don't see sweeps now in the NBA. Christopher says it all the time. You don't. I think the Lakers, like, they weren't going to sweep them, even though they know they won the series, but it was still going to always go end in 5, just because that's how the NBA is. The team is always good enough to win a game, unless you're playing OKC. But I did want to talk about Dylan Harper versus Scoot Henderson because that was fun. That matchup was a little fun. Dylan Harper literally destroyed him in that game, and that won the Spurs that game pretty much because it was close in that game. But Dylan Harper turned up.
The Blazers were up for most of that game.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, man. I think the Spurs do have a Fox problem because he's not worth all that money. And so, with Castle and Harper, performing in big moments, you can trust them now going forward. So I think they got to figure out what they're going to do with Fox, to be honest. But overall, though, it's never too bad to have 3 elite scorers that, come off the bench and score and stuff like that. And then having a 6th man of the year, which I don't think he should have won it, but maybe that's just me being biased. I think Jaime should have won it. Whatever, I'll say it. But yeah, man, I think the West, this is a little bit more easier than the East. Like, we know what's up. Yeah. We know who's gonna win. Like in Minnesota would have made it fun if fully healthy and Dante's fully healthy. But when you're going against a tough OKC or San Antonio, those 2 teams, they have it bracket off. Like, whoever's on their bracket, they have it bracket off, and they're gonna win. So
yeah. For sure. And that's the nice thing if you're Wemby, where now you have these other guards to play off of, and it could be any 3 of them, in these games, right? Like, it could be Castle. I mean, in the last game, it was De'Aaron Fox, right, who was the best of the 3, right? Where Harper struggled a little bit more, but he was great in game 3. So that's the nice thing that they have. And obviously with Wemby, you got the size, the defense. He didn't even shoot well from 3, but it's like you could just throw all these lobs to him, and he can just catch it and dunk it around. He can pretty much be anywhere on the floor. And, like, that's the awesome thing with him, where, like, this is a showing out party for him. And that's the thing with these generational guys, where it's like when they're in the playoffs for the first time, they make their presence known, where they're going to show that these guys are for real. Because I think we had some questions about could he struggle a little bit with the physicality. He had the concussion, but that wasn't really his fault. That was just a fluke. But in the 2 games he's played, he's really brought it on both ends of the floor. It is Portland, but either way, like you can just see, the value of what he brings, to the table and why he's now kind of climbing up the ranks of like, we thought this guy could be a top 5 player going into the season, and he's pretty much right there. So just kind of super impressive to see him, and I can't wait to see what the Spurs do the rest of the way. And then after that, I mean, I don't feel like we have to say much about the Suns. I mean, they had a really good season, like in terms of like the expectations. Like, yeah, you got swept in the first round. Most people didn't even expect them to make the playoffs. Like even Yarby and I took the over on the Suns, but I don't think we expected them to be like a top 8 seed in the Western Conference. Like honestly, like the way that they closed the regular season, they could have won more games. They could have gotten close to the 50 win mark had they not just blown a bunch of clutch games at the end. So I don't really have any complaints for them. I just wonder like how they continue to build going forward because they don't have picks. So could you potentially do something where it's like, all right, maybe we built Jalen Green's value back up, so maybe we can trade him and maybe go out and get a point guard, or maybe you keep him. I don't know what they do, and they don't really have to answer those questions right now. But I do at the very least like kind of like their team more than I thought I would going into the season. But if they're gonna consistently be like, a good playoff team or take the next step, like they're probably gonna have to make some upgrades, but without picks, that might be a little bit more difficult. And then it's like, what do you do with Mark Williams? What do you do with Malawach? Because you drafted him and he really didn't play much. So maybe you just move on from Mark Williams. I don't know because he's been hurt in this series. I have no idea because he was good for them in the regular season. But I do kind of wonder what their approach will be this offseason. Because like I said, they were better than I thought.
Yeah, they were great. They plateaued though. They clearly had their limits for sure.
Yeah. So and even like
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when it comes to Phoenix, they have to sell high on somebody, right? Like you can't just run it back with the same squad and expect different results. It's like Devin Booker is not the same guy. I don't care what anybody says. And he just wasn't great in the series, and honestly hasn't played well to the expectations that we thought he was. I think he slowed down a little bit throughout his career, but yeah, man, this is OKC, right? So it's tough to judge a lot of these players, but yeah, the West is just gonna run by OKC or San Antonio, man. So
yeah. And then, like same thing for Portland. They also overachieved. I mean, I can't really complain about them in the playoffs because I honestly didn't expect them to be in the playoffs going into the regular season. They just need to add. I mean, they're not going to have their lottery pick. I believe it goes to Chicago, but maybe you get Dame back. Maybe you make a trade. The ownership is concerning because it seems like he doesn't want to spend money. So that's not great. Didn't even want to pay for playoff shirts. Didn't want to bring the two-way guys to the game. So that's kind of
they
not
need
a
to
good
keep Drew
start.
Holiday, though. I tell
Huh?
you this: they need to keep Drew. They need it. Denny's a dog, and you bring a healthy Dame back, and obviously you still got Scoot Henderson playing better, Shaden Sharp, Donovan Clingan. They can compete, right? They could. I'm not gonna say they're gonna win, but they can definitely compete, right?
Yeah,
Because
they need another guy.
yeah,
I don't
and
think
I
you can
think
get
you got
away
to
with
figure out
Abdi
what
as
you're
your
doing
best
with
player.
Grant.
You said
Grant
what?
got to get out of here. Grant got to go. Grant.
Yeah, and that's the wild part about the Holiday trade was we were all like, "What the heck was that trade?" Like I know I remember when it happened. I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "What happened?" But honestly, he was good for Portland this year, and he was a big reason why, like down the stretch. Like I mean, they don't win some of those games without his production. But you could also argue he's played well enough where if you're Portland, maybe you could maybe sell high. I don't know who's going to give up a lot of assets to go after a guy this late into his career. And then, like I said, I'm curious to see Dame come back. I'm really hopeful that he can come off of that Achilles injury and, maybe just as a guard because they just need some perimeter juice. They can't shoot. They don't really have a lot of good ball handlers, right? Like Avdia can get downhill, but he also probably has to improve as an off the dribble shooter. So that's probably what you're looking at too. But I think, if you can get another guard, Scoot, that's been great for him because I know he was awful in that last game, but just the way that he's been playing down the stretch gives me a lot more hope and optimism for him going forward. Because I remember a couple months ago when it was just Yarby and I on one of these podcasts, I was like, Scoot might be a bust. Like it might just be over for him. But he's really, kind of bounced back. And like I said, I know he was garbage in that last game, but just seeing him be able to get to his spots, being able to score and shoot off the dribble, and even honestly playing defense, which I didn't think he'd even be good at defense coming into the league. Like that at least makes me feel better It's still not great, but it at least makes me feel better going forward if he can stay healthy, because he's been so injury prone so far through these first 3 seasons. But I'm super happy to see him play well going forward. And they had a lot of injuries, so I hope they're healthier next year and do some good things. But like I said, that ownership scares me. It does scare me.
Yeah, Portland's a great story though. I feel like I like the youth. I like the direction that they're heading in, and I think I was kind of on the fence about them. I didn't know if they were in limbo, were they trying to compete or what, but it is nice to see them headed in the right direction. They just need that one extra piece, and they can put something together, I feel like.
Yeah, we took the over. We didn't expect them to be a playoff team, but we thought they'd be better. We believed in what they did down the stretch of last season. And it looks like it's on the up and up. So that's the main thing I can say for them, where I'm happy to see it. So hopefully it can continue to get better. But like I said, that ownership, I don't know. It worries me a little bit. And then I guess Rockets Lakers, weird series. The injuries really, really, really stink, because I feel bad for Durant in the sense of I can't even pinpoint when the ankle injury happened. I know they talked about him boxing out Kennard, but it just really sucks that this was a matchup where if both teams were healthy, I was gonna be really excited going into the series, and it's no Luka, no Reeves, no Durant, pretty much except for one game. So it's just a weird series. It's I don't think either of these teams are beating OKC, but it still would have been fun, I think, to see these teams at reasonable health. I know you don't always get that in the playoffs. We've had some other series that have been ruined kind of by injuries, like Nuggets Wolves might be headed down that route as well. But I do wonder what and the series isn't over yet, right? Because Houston obviously won the last game. We'll see if they can be the first team to come back down 3-0. Don't know why you're shaking your head. They've done some good things the last couple of games, but that game 3 loss is kind of the one where I don't know why you're shaking your head. They've done some good things.
Yeah, they've also committed atrocities too.
No.
No.
I know.
In the most recent game, I mean, the Lakers gave that away. Cool, but in game 3, this series should be tied, respectfully.
I'm not saying they're gonna win. I'm just saying that the last, before they choked away game 3, it felt like that there were things that they were doing that looked better, but they need to do it for 3 straight games, potentially without Durant, which I guess you could play faster, but I don't know. That's really tough. I think the Lakers probably need Reeves to come back, because there's a lot of turnovers, from that team the last couple of games. It's been really ugly. And the last couple of games, the last game, Smart and Kennard and LeBron were pretty much shut out of the game. So, I mean, and then it kind of shows this is where you need another ball handler. So, winning game 3, they emptied the tank to win that game, because that was a game where they probably shouldn't have even won that game.
No,
I mean, I remember the commentators themselves were yeah, let's get ready, for Houston to win game 3. And then you look up and it's what the freak? 2 back-to-back turnovers? I mean, that was I just didn't expect that. So
KD was right, bro. Release the KD files. He was right. That's all I'm gonna say.
What does he do this summer, do you think?
I don't know.
If Houston, loses the series, do you think he gets moved?
Go to Washington. We'll take him.
Go to Washington. For who?
Don't know, don't care. We'll take him. Something. Because, bro, I don't think that's going to work out. That Houston thing is not going to work. There's no shot it does. Şengün is overrated. Jabari Smith Jr. is not the guy who I think people thought he was. Amen Thompson is not the guy who I think people thought he was.
You don't think they played well the last couple of games?
They played well in game 4, yeah. But in game 3, no, they did not. I don't care. They erased their own progress by becoming Al-Qaeda. What are we talking about, bro? Reed Shepherd is a terrorist.
Oh, my God. But so you don't think that they can come back and win the series?
No.
Do you think they win game 5?
No. This is over. It's over.
Okay.
I don't trust this team in the clutch. I don't even trust them with a 10-point lead, respectfully. And this happened last year. Seen it happen.
It did.
It's the same story. And this is what the team looks like without that calming presence of KD. And even when KD was in the game, when he did play, he looked terrible.
Yeah, because their clutch time record this season, even with him, because he played This is the thing that sucks is he played 78 games just to get hurt in the postseason, and it's kind of like fluky injuries. You know what I mean? Like it's not like, like what is it, like banging knees with a guy in practice, landing on somebody's foot or something like that while boxing out. I don't even remember what the other one was, but yeah, it just sucks. It just sucks, and I do kind of wonder what where Houston goes from here. Top notch, take it away. I want to hear your thoughts about this team.
Oh boy.
Obviously, the series isn't over, so we can't completely talk about them from an off-season perspective. Maybe you want to if you can, but share your thoughts about this series.
Brother, the Lakers lost just to give Austin Reeves and Luka more time for the OKC series. They're already preparing for that. I wouldn't be surprised if JJ Redick stopped game planning for the Houston Rockets because they're so bad. They're terrible. Like offensively, it's a disaster. There's no reason why you up 6 points with 20 seconds left and you blow that lead.
Only
Jabari
happened
Smith
one other
has the
time.
ball in his hands. And he said, "Well, I'm gonna throw it up in the air like a little football pass," and Marcus Smart steals it. And it's just terrible. LeBron stowed in that game in the second, like near the end, and then literally came back and hit clutch blocks and threes and stuff. It's just like
he was
it's
gassed. He looked like he had no energy left at the end of that
none.
game. Like that's the crazy part. Like it looked like they were ready to pack it up. The Lakers I'm talking about. Like when they turned the ball over and Şengün scored, it looked like they were ready to pack it up. Like they ran out of gas and it was like, all right, we don't have it. And then Houston was like, you know what? We don't want to win this game either. We don't want to win this game either.
It's terrible. I do think Kevin Durant actually gets traded this offseason. Don't tell me where, don't know who, don't know why. I do think he gets traded though. I just think, I think he's gone. I don't know, maybe Portland would be nice. I don't know. Just thinking of off the top of my
KD for AD.
No, just swap KD and Drew Holiday.
KD for AD.
Drew Holiday and Jeremy Grant for KD. There you go. Houston gets another point guard in case Fred VanVleet gets hurt. You get 2 point guards. And then you get Grant. There you go.
Can we talk about how the Thompson twins are overrated? They're just the most overrated players. They're awful. They're just awful.
You don't think Thompson has been good the last couple of games?
Bro, let's be for real, bro. Let's be for real. Those are inflated numbers, game. Bro, he could put up 30 in the next 2. He will not be a good player, a good offensive player, until he learns to shoot the ball.
Not a point guard. The difference is the last couple of games he's not playing as much point guard because it's
just really that simple. Like, bro, I watched the Sword play today. He can't even make a free throw. I seen a dude take a mid range. He's hitting off the backboard and he's right there. Like they fundamentally just can't shoot the ball, and that's gonna be a downfall of their career. So
I just thought once Fred VanVleet got hurt, I didn't believe that they could win the championship because I just felt like you're missing a point guard. I'm like, I don't trust Reed Shepherd at this point. I'm not calling him a bust, right? Because he's had some good games here and there, but you do kind of wonder.
He's a bust, bro.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I said this before. It's only one season, but bro, I don't like it. He doesn't look good.
He's a top 3 pick. It's not like he's like a number 14 or 11. This is number 3, bro. You're supposed to make an immediate impact, especially on a team like this.
Let me ask 17 points in the last game on 50% shooting.
Wow, a game where it's like it doesn't even freaking matter because the series is over.
17 in game 1, 17 in game 3, 17 in game 4, baby. Just hasn't shot the ball.
Well, what about giving the other team the game? How about that?
Well,
and the shot selection is terrible, bro. Like
you gotta play. You gotta play him. You gotta play him more. If you're Udoka, this is why you don't mess around with his minutes.
Yeah, well, Udoka doesn't know what he's doing. How about that?
Yeah, Udoka needs to get fired as well.
Agreed.
I don't like how
he won't. He won't.
He gotta go. But yeah, that series is a thing. So I just got some news that Naz Reid just got hurt, dude. This is so bad, dude.
Why is he still playing if they're down 20?
He got hurt before that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so.
This is dude.
Continue to get hurt.
If Naz is out for extended time, or it's just like one of those minor injuries and a keep it thing. But if Naz is out, this is a series Denver needs to win. And I think they probably will if that's the case. Because now you just lost 3 pieces that are very important. Now it's getting a little tough.
Yeah,
right.
Yes. So I want to ask these last 2 questions, before we close it out. And this is about Denver, I guess, to just kind of circle back. So, do we believe that, assume if Denver loses this series, or just doesn't make the finals or whatever, and OKC goes and wins back-to-back, like, does Shea now possess the best player in the world belt? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. That's what I think. I think he's already lost it, Jokic, but I'm just saying, like, I think it would be no more undisputed Jokic best player in the world if they lose this series. Even if they, like, regardless. Like, I mean, if OKC goes back-to-back, it is no more undisputed Jokic best player in the world. Because I know, like, we've kind of talked about Shea as kind of, like, moving up, now maybe being in that number one spot. But, like, I feel like if OKC goes back-to-back like that, that's done. Like, and I know OKC's got a really good team behind Shea, but I'm just saying, like, I think that should be the case.
Yeah,
Are we all in
I
agreement?
don't even think it has anything to do with going back to back, bro. I just think this series in general is just poop for him. Like,
Yeah,
it's a stain on his legacy. I'm gonna be real.
yeah, I didn't expect that one.
Yeah.
And then the last question: do we need to be on Jokic trade watch?
No.
Okay,
They're
He
just
stays in Denver.
they just might retool the squad because they desperately need to. It's just not it. It's not gonna
Okay,
work. Like maybe you move
All right.
on from Aaron Gordon, try and finagle something. I don't know, but something's got to change because that core can't run it back again.
And Christian Brown got a tech for pointing at Jaden McDaniels after a dunk.
I'm
so.
telling you, Jaden McDaniels warfare. It never fails, bro.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just feel bad for Minnesota because that's just such horrible timing with the injuries where it's like, I was wrong about the team, and then they get all these injuries. They go up 3-1, and, they may lose. Because, I mean, like I said, Denver should win this series. They should come back and win this series because I don't think Anthony Edwards comes back. So, I'm not expecting Denver to win this series. Like, honestly, as bad as they've been, they don't deserve to win this series. But if they do lose this series, then yeah, like there's no more undisputed Jokic best player in the world. Like if they lose this series, that conversation is done. Maybe Jokic gets it back if they win it next year or something like that. But like the belt is gone, in my opinion. The belt is gone. I think it's already gone. But I think there'll still be some people that will be hanging on, I think, until Denver gets eliminated. And then I guess one more question. If Denver gets out of this series alive, do they have any chance against the Spurs?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, they get fried.
Okay. If Gordon comes back and is healthy, do they have any chance?
No, their guards are gonna destroy them.
Okay. All right. I was just curious. Because the only argument you could have is like, nope, the lack of playoff experience, but it's just like Denver hasn't been good in this series. Like I said, I know they won this game. I do not care. I do not care.
Yeah.
Like for now, like I said, it's made me reevaluate. I'm probably not picking Denver anymore.
No, never.
Of course, the one time I don't pick a team to go back to back, then of course maybe it happens. So, but hopefully we get like an epic OKC Spurs series because it feels like that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
So, that pretty much concludes today's episode of Off Ball Takes. Appreciate everybody for watching. Great playoffs so far, just mired by injuries as well. And if you want to continue to check out all of our content, go to @the OBT Podcast on all of our socials. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Appreciate all the support. We'll see you next time.